Hey guys, this lesson is for Thursday, March 19th, 2020. And I'm going to start off by going over yesterday's daily math review. And so the roots for the first one are -3 and -4. Remember, you're using the quadratic formula for those two. And -2 plus or minus the square root of 2 for the second problem. So today's DMR for March 18th, 2020, you have two problems. You're going to do x squared minus 5x plus 4 and x squared plus 3x plus 1. And I'm allowing you to choose any method for these two. Now remember, DMR quiz is on Friday, so tomorrow you'll have a quiz to take on quadratics that I'll grade. So you have 1 and 2. Okay. All right, so let's go to our lesson for today. S35. It's lesson 5 in module 2 if you have to look it up in Google Classroom, or if you have to look it up on the Google. So March 19, 2020, today we're actually going to calculate standard deviation. It's the one piece out of this whole week that you're going to have to memorize how to do. It will be on EOC, and it's also tested all the way through college. I had it on a college test recently. So it's something that your parents probably also will recognize. The hard thing about it is that it's got a bunch of steps that you got to remember how to do. But once you do it a couple of times, it's pretty easy to remember. I hope your week's going good. I hope by this point when we're watching videos, you're realizing that this is something you can do. If you are frustrated or scared or confused about anything with the school, just email me. Let me know. Text me on Remind. You have the ability to get in touch with me, so make that happen. So here we are, lesson 5, measuring variability for symmetrical distributions. So we're only going to look at symmetrical distributions today. So here's a dot plot of the lives of the brand A batteries. We're looking at the batteries again, okay? So how do you measure variability of the data set? One way is by doing it through standard deviation. And to do that, we have an actual method that we go through to figure out standard deviation. And this is how far from the mean is this data deviating. So we have some steps, and I'm going to tell you to mark your book as we go through the steps. So the very first step that you're going to do is you are going to find the deviation from the mean. So you're going to need to calculate the mean and then subtract from the actual. So I'm going to take the 83 and I'm going to subtract whatever the mean was. So in this case, the mean was, let me double check to make sure, I think it was 101. Yes, it was 101 hours was the mean. So the first step in calculating the standard deviation is to take the 83 and subtract 101, and I get 83 minus 101, and I get 18. So I'm going to put that, and that would be my deviation. That would be the second thing that I do right here. So I get the mean, then I subtract, and I get all of those. That's what we learned yesterday, this second line right here. Then I take the third line, and I square that absolute deviation. So I take 18 times 18, and I get 324. So the third step would be to square it. So I take 7 times 7, 49, 5 times 5, 25. Notice that it doesn't matter what sign you have at that point because you're going to be squaring it. Then for the fourth step, you're going to take all of those squared numbers, and this is where you're going to add them up and get a total. And that would be 736. Then you're going to denote the number of values in the set. 1 value, 2 value, 3 value, 4 value, 5 value, 6 value. We have 6 values in this set of data. And we're going to denote that by the letter N. So I am then going to take my step 5, and I am going to take my sum, which was 736, and I'm going to divide that by however many terms, 6 minus the 1, because they're using the formula n minus 1. So that means I'm going to get 736 divided by 5, which would give me 147.2. And my last step to get deviation is I'm going to take the radical. And I'm marking it in my book for you. And yes, you're going to get a crazy decimal. It's 1.12.13 is my standard deviation. So this kind of takes you through. It says this tells us that the typical deviation from the mean for brand A is about 12.13. So it kind of gives you a clue as to how far off from the mean a set of data would be. So your goal for this lesson